Aloha. Sorry about this video being out of order in posting, but I mean, obviously I completed the steering column before I finished all the hydraulics and everything, but I did document all of the welding and stuff that I did on the steering column and replacing the steel so that this guy is sturdy again. So I did want to post that and show you what went on there. It was a lot of work. It probably took me a week to do. And anyway, that's that. Aloha. Aloha from Kilipohe, Kikani Aloha. On the Massey Ferguson GC2310 tractor. Did some work on the drive shaft and got that spline apart, and I had to put in a new U-joint. But you can see there's no steering wheel or steering column installed right now. These are the hydraulic hoses for the steering. And they're just disconnected and hanging here because I took the steering column out, but it was basically rusted through on one side. So I took that out, and then I found down here, this is where the engine mount should be, and there should be a steel platform right here that has a bolt hole in it for the engine mount. And you can see that's totally corroded through. Same thing on the other side, totally rusted through. And one side of the engine mount was totally just completely delaminated, and this side, just one half of it was completely delaminated. So I just got it sitting up on a block right now. I'm working on the steering column, and I'll refabricate these mounts, and I'm waiting for new mounts to come in. But yeah, so let's take a look at how the steering column was. Yeah. So this is the steering column. It's kind of hard to tell because it's laying on its back, but that's the throttle control, and the steering wheel would mount right here, and the steering hydraulic valve would go in there, and the hydraulic hoses would go down. The battery sits right in there, and it bolts on these platforms here. And this side, this is what's left of that side. You can see it's just totally rusted through, completely gone. And I cut this out with a plasma torch and grinder and different stuff. And then fabricated up a piece of 3/16. It's not 1/8 inch, it's thicker than 1/8 inch. And it's actually not quite 3/16, but this is a piece of 3/16 inch flat bar here with another piece here. This is the original piece. It holds the radiator, and the battery platform, as I said, is in there as well. So the radiator goes into this hole here and this hole here and sits in there. But this guy, yeah, so totally, completely rusted through. That's new steel. This red bar here in the middle is it's just holding this distance correct, so I don't get out of whack. I have some 1/8 inch flat bar. I'm just going to remake this. This is the battery platform, because it was, it's almost completely rusted through right there, and it was in bad shape. All out of the corners are really bad shape. So I'm just going to redo that. So that, yeah, this was cut here and welded in, and cut here and welded in, and then of course this side piece was completely cut off. And I'm just about ready to weld this back together. but I wanted to, you know, go in and have lunch and make sure. The thing is, you know, if this doesn't go in the right place, then the fan, well, the radiator sits in here. And then the fan, which is connected to the engine, sits right next to it. So if the radiator ends up in the wrong spot, then the fan could end up hitting either the shroud or the radiator or something else. So, oh yeah, so I think what I'm going to do as far as the feet go, I'm going to put the feet on, you know, make them out of this 3/16 flat bar. Weld the feet on, but I'm not going to drill the holes. I think I'm going to either figure out a way to clamp it in or put slots in so they can move forward and back. And if the steering wheel sits, you know, a half an inch further back than it did originally, I think that's just going to have to be fine. And yeah, so it's just clamped together, ready to be welded up, and I think that will be my next thing. All right, well, that's the steering column and radiator mount put back together mostly. It's just tacked up for now. Some of it's fully welded, but you know, these base parts, I'm not sure how it's all going to line up when I put it together, but I did want to at least put the radiator in there to verify that that was going to fit okay, and it does. There's a couple little bushings on the bottom that it just drops right into. And yeah, and then the rest of the mounting holes line up just fine. And the cowl seems to go on. Yeah, so next up for that is working on the engine mounts, which are corroded away right there. I spent some time yesterday and ground that flat. Anyway, so I just cut this piece of steel out of a 2x4 square tube, rectangular tube, and it's gonna weld in right there. That's progress on that. This side, not really been worked on yet. I'll probably do the same thing and cut this bolt off, or rather the nut. When I tried to take this bolt out, it just spun what was left of the nut in there, and I had to cut it off. So I'm going to get some new nuts for this side and new bolts. I don't know that they needed to be welded on there. I guess it makes it easier to assemble at the factory, but I'm not going to do that. Okay, here's the results from the steering column. Everything's back together. I painted all of this with POR rust paint, and I got a new hour meter for it, which I ran up to 403 hours. I think it had 303 hours before, so now ran that up to 403. Starts and runs just fine. Cools. Doesn't seem to be leaking coolant or anything. All of the electrical went back in. This guy was all rusty. This is the blinker relay, which I have to kind of try to figure out what I can do with that. I would like to have, you know, emergency flashers and blinkers, the headlights. There's no horn. Kind of bugs me there's no horn, but you know, it's wired for all of that except for not the horn. But yeah, not much else to say. You know, okay welds, not super hot or anything, but there's plenty of steel in it now. This is 3/16, which is the closest I could get to what was originally there. So what was originally there is a little thinner. The metal I put in 3/16 is thicker. I think this bottom pan is 1/8 inch. I didn't use 3/16 there, but it's solid. You know, I mean, you can reef on the steering wheel before, where if you tried to do that before, the whole thing would tilt to one side, but you can get in and out. So yeah, next step is to get some tin in here so we don't have the spinning fan of death running between your legs when you're trying to use it. So that's it for now. Aloha.